Donald Trump is there for everybody to see. And I think more and more billionaires who finally wake up and get this little message will join him because they realize, hang on a second, he's the first one. That's the battle line. When Trump falls, we fall. Now, in Europe, also, what I found very strange was how very quickly Queen Elizabeth died and her husband died. It happened very rapidly. Her husband, then her a couple of months later. The year after that, Prince Charles suddenly has cancer, and so has Kate Middleton. So the Duchess of whatever she is right now, Duchess of Cambridge, titles keep changing. But anyway, Prince William's wife. And I don't say that maliciously, but I'm saying it because cancer can be induced with directed energy weapons. I think also there was a public release about how Queen Elizabeth and her husband took the COVID vaccine. Well, I'm not going to say anything about that on this channel because it will remove all of the content I ever put up. But I'm saying that is, at least that's what they put out. And the fact is that they died just a couple of months later. And it's actually statistically very unlikely for people to just die within the same year. You know, people are getting old and they are old and frail, but hey, people are old and frail for decades sometimes. You know, when there's such coincidence, and when it's that then paired with another pair of coincidences, you've got 4 coincidences in just a couple of months, right? That is, for me, evidence of targeting. I actually do believe that Prince Charles and Kate Middleton have cancer because they were targeted with directed energy weapons. I strongly believe that because there's no other way that I can explain that these health issues befall 4 people in one family, so clustered together. Now, for me, that shows that the royal families are being targeted. And in the past, I put out a video where I believed that I decoded a message by the cartel announcing that it is the English royal family that they are after. It was the 300 years in the making sort of thing. It was actually a Royal Ascot advert that was coded with symbology. And there's a video out there where I explain all that. But, you know, I just decoded the Masonic symbols and this is what it seemed to have said. And then lo and behold, just a few years later, we have this 4 people, 2 are dead and 2 are ill. So, you know, this is what it is. But when you think about it in terms of systems analysis, this global crime cartel that is controlling the banks and the intelligence agencies needs to asset strip stuff to keep feeding their members. They need to get more stuff. They are printing money as well, but you can only print so much. At some point, you want to have access to real goods, property, land holding for real stuff, mining operations, all that. They want to have control of that. And the people who are ripe for picking are the royal families of Europe and the billionaires of America. So, you know, with that in mind, 2024 has to be a mega cleanup. And then to get back to what the individual can do, there's a million things you can do. There's a million things you can do. You can you know, write complaints to courts. They do get inundated with letters. You can also bring court cases as voters. And we can talk about that. You have to sit down and creatively start thinking what you can do with the premise that there's a million things you can do, tailored to your situation, you know.
Yeah, if you want to save our republic, the only way to do that is to actively get involved and vote.
That's true.
Just vote. And you know, if you don't realize it, the Democrats are really trying to destroy this country. You need to vote all of them out. You need to send a very strong message to them so that the party give them a chance to clean up their party. The only way to do that is send them a very strong message. Yeah. I mean, they're destroying the country right now, and we have to stop that and reverse it. Yeah. Make America great. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's a good thing. Gee.
It is a good thing. Now, returning briefly, because we don't want to be online for too long, but briefly, a brief summary of what has been happening. So you guys maybe know I moved to the US to actually, originally I came to the US to work with Bill. The COVID shutdowns canceled my flight. I got stuck. Bill put me up. And then we found out that we're really very similar. He's a mathematician. I'm a physicist. We're both fighting organized corruption in government and public offices. He in the US, me at the time in Europe. And yes, we got married. So since then, I've been living in the United States. But after we got married, the targeting program has gone truly insane. So we have been, our house and us, we were gunned with directed energy weapons from a drone. We did measurements and found out that there was an electromagnetic signal that was doing a figure 8 above our house. So you have a spectrum analyzer with an antenna, right? Where you can tell the directional antenna, and then you can see that the peak radiation is basically doing a figure 8, right? That is above the house.
For a fixed wing drone.
Yeah. For a fixed wing drone, right? Also, neighbors reported seeing drones. Also at night, we saw what looked like a camouflage drone. It looked like a star that was blinking twice white and twice red. We were living right next to the to Baltimore International Airport at the time. So we presumed that if the intelligence agencies fly a drone anywhere near an airport, they actually have to mark it. But otherwise, it looked like a star, like a fake star. And if you look carefully, you realize that the star was occasionally like very algorithmically blinking red, you know, in addition to looking like a white star. So we had that also just in...
we have specific frequencies of energies that are government originated, according to the FCC.
Yeah.
And they are 2 to 3 times orders of magnitude stronger than anything else in the environment.
Yeah. So
and they're line of sight. So, I mean, and we had them in one state. Now we're back in another state and they're here too.
Yeah.
So these line of sight signals are following us wherever we go. So
yeah, in the FCC, these frequencies are registered as electronic warfare, and also for other signals are military signals. So these are blasting our house 24/7. Also, Bill and I are both have been covertly and non-consensually implanted in the past, and we're both being tortured extremely with those. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to, so we have torture sessions and then recovery sessions. It's very algorithmic, but they're trying to wipe out any sort of time we have together where we overlap and we both feel fine. We both feel pain-free. So for those who don't know, there's a book called Global Brain Chip and Messages, but by Dr. Hildegard Stanninger, I think 10 or 15 bucks off Amazon. And you can see photographs of biotechnology implants that have been operated out of American victims. You can actually see what these chips look like. You can convince yourself that this shit's real, as it were. But both Bill and I have these chips, and what they do is they induce synthetically generated pain. Because it's synthetically generated, it is much stronger than anything the body itself would naturally produce. So in other words, you can be tortured horrifically. There's nothing going on with you medically. You feel fine. Next moment, you are in agonizing pain as if you're about to die, and then you feel normal again. And so they have done algorithmic torture. They tortured Bill's left side and then right side and then left, right. They did the same with me. So there's many bits of evidence where we can tell, in addition to measurements, I should say, we have bug detector measurements. We have tests with spectrum analyzers, tests with magnets. We can show that we've been implanted. I have medical certificates that show surgery, laser surgery scars on my body where there shouldn't be any, and a million other things. So, okay, just take it in. This shit's real. It's going on. And Bill and I are those people who are being tortured with them. Now, I should also say that I have a scientific article up on my website. My website is stop007.org. Under the reference section, there's a scientific article about these chips. It's called the body area network. People don't just have one chip, they have a whole network of chips. And that scientific article talks about the communication between body area networks. So between the covert technology that has been operated into people and is now communicating between people and is almost doing and setting up an Internet of Things without people's knowledge.
The people being some of the things.
Yeah, exactly. So in a sense, when you hear about the Internet of Things, you should complete the sentence that this is really about the Internet of Things in you that you don't know about.
And think about the brain-computer interface. That is a two-way interface.
Yeah.
Not one way, it's two ways. So they can implant things in your brain without you soliciting their input.
Yeah.
So, and they can make you think things that you wouldn't normally think, basically.
Now, we should also say that these are horrific crimes, and sadly, they are much more prevalent than people know. The scientific article that is on my website already assumes that I think about 30% of the population is already implanted. They just assume it, and they're like, given that that's the case, we can start talking about the communication between body area networks and so on and so on. They also list the frequencies that are used. But the good news is that even when you're implanted, once you are implanted, the evidence of the crime is in your body. It stays with you in a sense. So you have this evidence, and there's ways to measure it. There's ways to find them. We are working towards trying to get doctors to help us take them out. It's very difficult because these doctors are being blackmailed and terrorized and, by the intelligence agencies. But as these crimes become ever more known, there will be more and more ways. But anyway, so just to explain why we've been absent from YouTube for such a long time, it's basically because either Bill or I have been horrifically tortured such that we never really had an overlap where we could both just sit down and do a YouTube show. It sounds insane, but by now Bill is pretty much being tortured 24/7. There are small windows like now, but otherwise, Bill is being tortured, and the same with me. So yeah, that's it. Also, we had other things. I mean, right now, just like in Maryland, in our new house in this other U.S. state, which we don't really want to reveal publicly, where we're living now, our house is being gunned by directed energy weapons and pulsed energy projectiles. These pulsed energy projectiles predominantly follow me around the house. So if I come into the room, suddenly there will be impact sounds in the beams and in the ceiling above our head. So also in Maryland, we actually moved our bedroom into the basement because of the directed energy weapon gunning. The pain they caused with gunning was so intense I couldn't sleep. So we moved into the basement. I could still feel the attacks, and then eventually we put metal whiteboards on the ground floor, on the floor of the ground floor above our head to try to shield us further. And in one late night attack, the drone shot 2 holes into the metal whiteboard. We heard these horrific bangs, went upstairs and found 2 holes in the whiteboard, in the metal whiteboard. Now this is a technology that is out of this world, because typically if you have a classical electromagnetic wave, you would have to, I mean, first of all, you can't impart a longitudinal impact with classical, according to the laws of classical electromagnetism, because the field lines, the electric and magnetic field, are transverse. So if this is the direction of travel of the photon, electric and magnetic fields are at right angles, to the direction of travel. So the field lines cannot impart a longitudinal momentum, yet there are waves that seem to be electromagnetic that can do just that. Now, there's reasons why I've excluded a particle beam, but even if it were a particle beam, if you can shoot a hole somewhere, there has to be a hole, along the full beam line, but there isn't. So there's a way to, to basically do a corkscrew impact where the impulse is at a certain depth. Now, I should be said that by everything that I learned at Oxford, I studied Oxford, I did my PhD at Oxford in particle physics. Nothing I know about physics that I've been formally taught allows for this. But I also know that the Maxwell's equations are first order equations, and nothing in nature is ever first order. So in real terms, there must be other electromagnetic laws. There must be another higher order electromagnetism that I haven't been taught. And also, I know for a fact that Tesla was working on something called the death ray. And when Tesla died, his papers were basically stolen by the FBI. So I presume this is the missing Tesla technology that the US has developed into these special directed. So directed energy weapons are just the term. They also incorporate microwave weapons, which use classical electromagnetism. But pulsed energy projectiles, I believe is the term the US military uses for these fancy schmancy weapons that can, basically punch a hole into sheet metal without having any sort of bullet holes pointing back to the drone that did it. So we witnessed that. Gosh, we witnessed so much. Endless housebreaking, car sabotage, attacks on the road, vandalism and sabotage of our car, staged accidents. So much. And also, I shouldn't forget to mention the fake subpoena by Erica Meyer. So Erica Meyer, people maybe remember about 7-8 years ago or whenever, in 2017, 18, 6 years ago, started harassing my colleagues and me. She claimed that I don't have a PhD. She started publicly defaming everybody to the point that I made a website documenting her defamation. And what she did is she subpoenaed me as a witness, whereby I should say the first time the police served this subpoena on me, it was unlawful. The police refused to tell me who actually authorized them to do so because it was an interstate subpoena. There was no equivalent court case in this state.
They didn't go through the state.
Yeah, they didn't go through the public channels. They didn't go through the channels prescribed by law at all. And the police typically doesn't serve random subpoenas by private individuals from another state. That just doesn't happen. So I said to the police, please tell me who the hell authorized you to do this, because it's as sure as F wasn't Erica Meyer. Now, the one thing that the police major blurted out is that there was a telephone number for callback request after they have served the subpoena, and he refused to say what that telephone number was for weeks. So that also proved that the telephone number was not that by Erica Meyer, because that was on the sheet itself. There was no reason to keep it, private, because the telephone number was on the subpoena itself. So I suggested that the telephone number was actually to the local FBI field office or to the FBI handler. Now, I was proven right in a sense, because I was basically forced to sit through a deposition on the 4th of January, a completely fake deposition. And the logic of me being roped in as a witness was something like this. Erica Meyer said that her brother-in-law and the wife of her, I think it's her brother-in-law, and the ex-wife of her deceased husband are defaming her. I think they're basically saying that she is a liar and whatnot. Stuff that I actually agree with. And then she said they are defaming her, and because they are defaming her in the US, and because I defamed her 6 years ago by making a website about her defamation, which, she takes screenshots of her defamation to be defamation of her, which is, illogical in itself. But because I too defamed her, that's why I'm a witness in her case. And what is really insane is that she ropes me in as a witness, presumably to testify in her favor, and I have nothing to say in her favor. All I can do is actually agree with the other side, the defendants, whom she's suing, and actually say they are right. Erica Meyer is, in fact, a pathological liar. And the only thing I can add to that is that she also works with the FBI. Now, we had proof that she works with the FBI because as part of that fake deposition over Zoom for this fake subpoena, she quoted a private conversation between Bill and me. She actually quoted a private conversation verbatim. Now, that can only happen if she has access to the surveillance information of our house.
Yeah, within the IC, yeah. The FBI is a prime candidate, could be NSA or CIA. Those are the main ones.
The IC being the intelligence community.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, that was fireworks. So I was dealing with Erica Meyer, and in a sense, I'm kind of pleased because 6 years ago, I wrote the website saying that these are people who should be working for the intelligence agencies if they are not, because they could earn a lot of money doing what they do anyway, like, subverting people and defaming them. They could do whatever they do anyway and earn a lot of money for it. So back in 6 years ago, I could not say with proof that Erica Meyer was an intelligence agent, but or an agent of the intelligence agencies. That sounds better, because she doesn't necessarily has a regular pay and a 401k with the intelligence agencies, like a pension plan. She can be just somebody they hire, you know, some schmuck, some little Dumbo that they hire to put on these little skits, you know. So I think, but yes, she is being paid by the intelligence agencies. She has been hired to harass me. And they went out of their way to get Erica Meyer resurrected and make her, you know, serve me a fake subpoena. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
And yeah. So anyway, that was interesting. So it's stuff like that that is, you know, occupying our time. But first and foremost, it is really the nonstop torture and the nonstop directed energy weapon attacks to our home. I mean, to put it into context, the intelligence agencies are in the habit of shooting a metal mirror on my dresser in our bedroom so that every night there's a loud bang, you know, something literally sounds like somebody shot the metal mirror, and they just amuse themselves doing that once per night. But of course, the implication is at any point,
Actually more than once.
sometimes more than once.
Yeah.
It's usually once or twice, you know. Yeah. I think they think if we haven't heard it, they do it again to make sure we hear it. But really what this is, it is a nonstop death threat, like a daily death threat saying, well, you know, imagine this shot hits you in the head or in the heart. That's a heart attack, or you know, what something could look like a stroke or an aneurysm. So in other words, we have daily death threats, basically, in addition to hardcore torture. So this is why we've been absent from YouTube, but we'll make an effort to come back, because we really feel that 2024 will be the make or break of the world in many respects. I'm kind of pleased. I'm an ethnic Hungarian, and I never lived in Hungary as a resident, because I was born in Transylvania, that used to belong to Hungary, but is now part of Romania. And my parents fled to Germany in the 1980s. So when my parents and I fled, I became a German citizen. So, but I am an ethnic Hungarian. I speak Hungarian at home with my family, and I'm pleased that it is the Hungarian President Viktor Orban who's one of those people who is holding against the cartel. Trump and he have actually a lot in common. He also stopped the open borders policy that the EU was trying to enforce on Hungary. And yes, so the struggle is real, and the struggle is happening all around the world. And this global organized crime cartel is really trying to take us all out.
Yep.
But the good news is, as we said, Bill had the technology to stop all this. It was already implemented at the NSA. The NSA stripped these technologies and turned it into evil. But the technology is still there. It can be, this corruption can be tidied up. Though, let's say if you got back into the NSA with tasked by Donald Trump to tidy up this corruption, how long do you think it would take you to get the data on?
To get the data, probably a month at most on all of it.
A month, guys. One
But
month.
then it would take, I don't know, a year or two
to
prosecute it all.
Yeah.
To at least get all the prosecutions in the courts.
Yeah. But I guess once the WHO is established, further crimes can be stopped, further criminal conspiracies.
I mean, there's no reason they shouldn't be able to stop virtually all of it now.
Yeah.
I mean, this is crazy. I don't understand why they're doing it or not doing it. Well, I mean, if you know some of the people involved, they do it for money. Solving the problem has nothing to do with making the money.
Yeah.
You know, when I first started getting involved in contracts at NSA, I always thought that the companies involved with the government, their vision statement had to be something like aim low and miss, because they never solved anything. They'd always get a little bit and then they have to keep going. But then later on, after a while, and after I saw many more contracts and so on, I know what their vision statement is: keep the problem going so the money keeps flowing. Doesn't matter how many people get hurt in the meantime, doesn't matter. Just keep it going so the money keeps flowing. That's why when I was called in to testify to the House of Lords, they did that because I got published in one of the magazines or one of the newspapers in England, where I said, bulk data collection kills people. And they didn't believe that. You know, I was in there testifying to the House of Lords, and I gave them copies of the people in MI5 saying they're so burdened with data they can't figure out what's going to happen. That's the point.
GCHQ.
No, but this was MI5, okay. Like the FBI in here. Also from GCHQ, they were saying, and NSA, I gave them copies of all of that from the Snowden material. That was internal publications in these organizations where their analysts were saying they couldn't figure things out because they were overburdened with data. And the process of selection that pushed data at them, they just got buried every day. Well, that was the whole reason why I did Thin Thread in the 1990s and solved that problem by 1999 and had it implemented in 2000 and 2000, early 2000. And but they threw it away because it wasn't something that gave them control over everybody. So, but the point was that back then in the UK, bulk data was the key that was killing people because they couldn't see the threat coming. The threat happened, people died. And so people died as a consequence of this mass collection. And so it made them dysfunctional. So that's why I was attacking it. That's why I worked on the Thin Thread program in the 1990s, because of the data overload, we were making our analysts dysfunctional. And I wanted to make them functionally succeed. And the way to do that was very straightforward: deductive, inductive, and adductive logic, and probable cause definition and execution under those logic rules. So that can be done. It has been. I mean, we did it in the 1990s, and of course, they threw it away.
But the bottom line is, once the technology has been invented and it's, proof of principle has been done, it is very easy to get it back.
If you know what you're doing. These people do not know what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's the thing. That's what people always understand. Many company leaders and government leaders think that they can just throw morons at a problem and they will come up with something brilliant. But two people with an IQ of 80 don't replace one person with an IQ of 160. That's not how the how the system works, how intelligence works. So yes, with the right people, this could be done. Also, one of the things I wanted to give another shout out to the work of Catherine Austin Fitz. This is very, very important, because what Bill did in the classified area, she did something, it's the same systems analysis principle, by the way, but she did something very important. She introduced public accounting. So she had a software whereby the idea was to have public accounts, anything that's public, so not military, not classified, but any public institution, be it at the federal, at the state, or the local level, had to have fully public accounts. When she first came up with it, she said her Wall Street colleagues said, why the hell would I want to know if my local council spends, $1 on a pencil? And yet when she put that software in, the very same colleague called her up and he said to her, you have no idea what I've just found out. My local council was basically spending millions on water processing, but the millions spent was so out of proportion to the number of people, so the size of the water treatment plant, it was pretty obvious that it was money laundering and some criminal scheme was going on. And, Catherine also says, see, this is why you need public accounting. So when you have full transparency about how the tax money is being spent down to every last pencil, it is very hard, or much harder, to pull off corrupt schemes. And this is very important because right now where we live, we are being harassed. So we have car stalker pass-bys in front of our house. Almost every time I leave the house, somebody is stalking me. Somebody is harassing me. They're flashing long beams at me. They are shouting stuff at me. And just yesterday, was it? Or the day before yesterday, when we left the house and a car was literally following us and trying to follow us.
That was yesterday. Yeah.
That was yesterday, right? But these people know exactly when to start following us when we're leaving the house, because they're using indoor surveillance, which can be done with through-the-wall radar from a drone, but it can also done with illegal audio surveillance of the house, which I think both is happening. And they just harass us. But the point is that some of these harassers, we actually identified them, and they are basically residents in our local community. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that the FBI and the intelligence agencies are bringing in money into a local community. They are hiring corrupt individuals in your neighborhood for community harassment programs. But it is very hard to pay these people when you have public accounting, right? And okay, in the case of the FBI, it's difficult, but I'm pretty sure this is being funneled through semi-public programs. It's being covered up as semi-public programs, but there has to be a full audit of the intelligence agencies financially as much as operationally. Now, Bill can do it for the NSA. Catherine Austin Fitts already put something in for public accounting of the governments, right, of the public part of the governments. All these solutions already exist. We just have to actually apply them and finally tidy up this corruption. Yeah. I personally really hope that, I think what the intelligence agencies are trying to do is take out Bill and me. I think one of us or both, right, before the next general election to prevent us from trying to tidy up this corruption. We already tried to do something before the 2020 election. We both saw that it was foreseeable that it's going to be I'm not even allowed to say what I was about to say on YouTube because my channel will be destroyed, but it was foreseeable that interesting things would happen on the day. And Bill and I, together with Kirk Wiebe, we put together a little a template explaining how certain irregularities could be prevented, and we sent it to all the 50 plus secretaries
Guam and Puerto Rico,
Guam and Puerto Rico as well, plus the 50 states of the US. We wrote to every single Secretary of State, and guess how many showed an interest and replied about actually securing the integrity of the elections. It was 0, a big fat 0. So, but anyway, the solutions are there. So I'm a data analyst. Bill is a data analyst. We both know ways of doing this, right? I can just apply my particle physics principles, and Bill's already applied them. And it's with the very same things one can tidy up Medicare and Medicaid fraud, all types of frauds with the right data analysis tools. All these problems could be solved in 1 month tops, right? So there we are. The solutions are there. We're just waiting for, a government that actually wants to apply them and put them into practice. But our message, I think, on our YouTube really has to be very positive, right? I really love Trump's drive and positive message every time, because yes, it is very important to face up to all the corruption, all the crimes that are going on, and there are many more going on at government level that we have even listed here. But the most important thing is to know that things can be done. It's actually much easier to tidy up all this stuff than people even imagine, and we just have to get going. We just have to get going and actually start tidying them up. All right.
And if you want to save our country, don't vote for a Democrat.
Yeah. I should say, as a small footnote, as I followed the elections from Europe, the last couple of, I'm not talking about Trump or Biden, the previous, governments and previous presidents, this global crime cartel has a way of corrupting both Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah, that's
For example, they are talking about the rhinos, the Republicans in name only, right? The rhinos.
Yep. Yeah.
Now, the rhinos are also rhinos because they are being paid by somebody to be rhinos, right? That corruption too can be uncovered, right, within a month. But the point is that this global organized crime cartel that I call the Crown Corporation, because that's what they call themselves, the Crown Corporation has a way to corrupt both. But at this wash cycle, they really put their hand up the backside of the Democratic Party. And it is absolutely insane what has happened the last 4 years. When I came to the US, I saw the last year of Trump, and then I saw the change under Biden, and it is shocking. Under Trump, there was such energy, such hope for the future, such drive. And now all I see is just a shithole, falling apart. Sadly. So yes, I came to the US and I discovered I'm a staunch Republican.
Yeah.
I didn't know that about myself.
Conservative.
Yes.
Conservative.
No, I'm really for the Republic. I love republics. I am a Republican. So that's what I discovered. It doesn't matter, because I am here just a lawful resident. I'm not going to vote in the national elections, but if I could, there was as I was going through the immigration process, which is bloody expensive, and it's really an irony because I think one of the people who came to the US and never really wanted to be here. It's only because of Bill. But I never really wanted to come to the US otherwise. And I was really trying to convince Bill to come over to Europe instead. But anyway, in the end, I had to get my green card, and going through that process, which is bloody long and really bureaucratic, such a harassment process. And I was saying to Bill, listen, meanwhile, under Biden, there are millions of people coming across the southern border. How about I just take a plane ticket to Mexico? I come back on foot. I love hiking. I love swimming. But I guess I could never bloody vote for the Democrats. So if I come back with these mules and they force me to put through, 3,000 votes for the Democrats, I would have to say, I'm sorry, amigo, I can't do it. I'm gonna walk back and then fly back home. So anyway, in the end, we did the green part. I'm one of those schmucks who's actually here lawfully. Do you know how much money that costs?
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, it's all worth it.
I hope you still think
It's all
so.
worth it.
I hope you still think so after the years we've been married,
Sure.
It's good to know. But anyway, all right. So nice to see you guys again. We'll be in touch. We'll try to put out, we want to put out a video at least once per week. We have so many things to talk to you about Fulton County, Georgia, about Fani Willis, about Judge Angoran, who I in private call Judge Real Moron. Anyway, so all these things, it's going to be a blast. If nothing else, 2024 will be a real show. So get your popcorn machines ready. And we hope to see you soon. So good to be back. And thank you for listening to us, and talk to you soon, guys.